Okay, back with Barbarossa. I'm just going to run down the general course of play, sequence of play, and just some of the different categories and cases of the rules real quick. Let's see here. General course of play. Barbarossa is basically a two-player game. Each player moves his units and executes attacks in turn, with his objectives being to destroy enemy units in the game territory, while minimizing friendly unit losses. Combat is resolved by comparing the attack and defense strengths of the adjacent opposing units and expressing the comparison as a simplified probability ratio. After the defender has chosen which combat results table will be used, a die is rolled and the outcome indicated by cross-referencing the die roll result in the odds column is applied to the unit being attacked. Barbarossa is played in turns. Each game turn is composed of two-player turns. Each player turn is composed of 3 phases. A typical game turn would proceed as follows. First player turn. German always plays first. First movement phase. Player may move all of his units in any direction up to their full movement allowance with restrictions as outlined in the movement and zone of control rules in the turn effects chart. Combat phase. Players may attack those enemy units adjacent to his units at his option. Then we have a second movement phase. The player may move all of his units in the same manner and with the same restrictions as in the first movement phase. This movement is in addition to that allowed in the first movement phase. No combat phase occurs after this movement phase. Then we have the second player turn, which is basically the same. They execute phases 1 through 3. And then we have players indicate the passage of one game turn on the reinforcement, replacement, and turn record chart by placing a marker on the turn completed. Each game turn represents 1 month of real time. There's different scenarios, so each of the 4 standard scenarios lasts a varying number of game turns. At the end of the second player's second movement phase, at the last game turn, the position of each player's units is evaluated in terms of victory conditions. And we basically have, try to show you this without getting too wild and crazy. We have the movement phase. We have railroad movement. Every hex is considered to have a railroad in it, so basically units which do not start in an enemy control, do not end in enemy control, can move basically 12 hexes. And then we have support units, which are basically supply and the Luftwaffe. They have certain movement restrictions. We have the standard zones of control. We also have stacking and breakdown. We have combat. Hold this thing steady at all. And there's also overruns in this game. And we have supply. I'm not going to get this in any kind of deal. Should just set the camera down. Then we have control of cities. We have Luftwaffe units. We have weather. And then we have the different starting front lines for the different scenarios. And then we have the initial deployment and so on and so forth. Some what if scenarios in here too, or options I guess I should say. There are, I think, 4 different games. I'm not sure. There's Barbarossa, the Stalingrad, the Citadel, and then we have the campaign game, I guess. And that pretty much concludes our basic rundown of the game. Like I said, the game is copyrighted in 1971, so it's going to have some conventions which are quite similar to many games today, as well as some situations which are quite archaic to today's games. So, I'm going to come back and I'm going to start the first turn. Thanks. Okay, here's the situation after turn 1. German forces have made a limited penetration here, and that's about it. They're starting to do an encirclement here. Um, there were pretty good combat results, just not enough to make a substantial breakthrough. The Soviets have moved all the forces here into blocking positions. Hopefully, they'll slow down or delay the Axis units. Other than that, not much more happened on turn one. There were, excuse me, let me go by a camera. There were a few Russian units eliminated, but other than that, mostly just retreats. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and play out turn two and see what happens there. Catch you later.